life matters, and you've taken on a responsibility for these little lives, and you need to find them a good home, their forever home.
I was living in Colorado. It was about a year ago, and I had been out there for work, so always had a dog. Had a previous dog prior to a family dog, but we had to put him down, so I always wanted my own dog after our dog Crusher. So I found him on Craigslist. It's a little unorthodox way of finding a dog, I know, but there's actually a lot of really good things that you can find on Craigslist because there's a whole community for pets and animals. He was on there for about 2 weeks, and before I contacted the lady about him, and has been by my side ever since. One of the main reasons why I ended up getting him was because Rugger is a pit bull, and in Denver County, pit bulls aren't allowed. So that was one of the main reasons why I believe Rugger was still on Craigslist for so long, not being able to be adopted, because he was living in a town that prohibited it. He probably would have been let there, and no one would have done anything with him. She even said that she was moving out of town, so she didn't know what she was going to do with him, and that's what really inclined me to make the purchase and get my Rugger. To some people, it's like having a child. When he was a puppy, I was up at 6 o'clock every morning, make sure he was going to the bathroom, not going to the bathroom in the house, which my mom would have been very upset about. There's a huge relationship with a pet and with an animal, I believe, and every dog I've had, I've had that connection with them. I've realized that, there's still something more to dogs than just, being a pet. Like I said, the personality just shines out his butt.
You want some food?
There it is.
You want some food?
I think it's very important to understand that you want to make sure that you have a good match. You want to make sure that this isn't a spur-of-the-moment kind of thing.
We really try to make it easy for folks to adopt. When you come in, we have you fill out a survey that gives us a little more information about you and your home life and lifestyle. Do you rent? Is it a small apartment? Is it a big house? Do you have other pets at home? Do you have kids at home? Those types of things. And then we can just sort of match you up with the best pet that may be a good fit for your home.
You interview the people to see which kind of dog is going to best match their needs. And that socialization process of working with the dog, knowing the dog, is going to get that dog adopted, is going to find a forever home for that cat.
You're adorable. You look like a little bit of a pit.
Going in a room with the animal and playing with it, observing the people with the animal, you have to go through a process that makes sure that you are matching the right animal with the folks that are there, and that it's not just going to be, fun and games, but that they know, what's involved here. And I think that the more you can slow down the process a little bit and get people to think about this. But if you want to adopt an animal, I think you really do need to be made aware of the responsibility of taking on another life.
Everything starts with the application, because it's an in-depth way for us to get to know you and for then, us to help you find that right husky. We don't want these guys back. We want to find that perfect fit. We want that match. We want you to be happy. We want them to be happy. We can't stress it enough.
She got into the foster care business. I'm the enabler that said, yeah, sure, go ahead and do that.
In total, we figure we've had close to 175 dogs come through the house, whether it was a puppy or a dog that was a couple years old.
The high water mark for us is we actually had 27 dogs in the house, but they were mostly litters of puppies. There's 6, 7, 8 puppies in a litter, and we had them in various pens and different spots in the house just because it was it was easier to do that. They're only going to be there for a couple of weeks, and if everybody just pitches in, you can clean up after them. And that was a very unusual situation. I tell people when they say they're looking for a dog, and they say, well, we want to get a dog, we want to make sure it really fits our home. I always thought, if you foster, you have the dog in your house. You can see if the dog fits your family, fits your lifestyle, fits your yard, whatever. It's almost like a rent a dog or trial agreement in a sense, right? So it really works out. I think it's really worked out well for us.
Hi, girl. Can you come here?
This is Faith, and she came up on a transport a year and a half ago. She's already 6 months old with, I think it was 5 or 6 other dogs. At least we had her and 2 of her sisters. She was named Faith because all the girls got named after country music stars. So she's named after Faith Hill, and then there was also Martina and Miranda, right? And so Faith is afraid of children, absolutely terrified of them. We didn't know this at first, but because all the dogs were afraid of people, they wouldn't come out of the cage. In fact, to give the dogs their shots, the woman at the rescue actually climbed into the cage with them to give all 3 of them their shots so we could take them home, because we could not pull them out. They were so afraid. So the next day we started taking them outside, putting them on leashes, and making sure they got used to people. And she just kind of took to me, and I took to her. And next thing you know, I couldn't get her adopted out because she didn't want to. She'd go to adoption events and always come back because she didn't want to go near children. She would hide from them, and she still is that way today. But she doesn't seem to mind being by me at all, as you can see.
There she goes. What's Daddy got? What's Daddy got? Mommy's toy. Mommy's toy. Who wants it? Who wants it? Ready? 1, 2, 3, go get it! This is Lucy, who came up on a transport of 22 dogs. She was supposed to go to our neighbors to be fostered. Well, we walked into our neighbor's house and determined that Lucy was not going to get along with our neighbor's dog in any way, shape, or form. And Emma next door really wasn't loving Lucy either. So I said, okay, fine. Pulled her back into our house and said, we need to find different foster for Lucy. But then about an hour after that, I was walking down the stairs and she was sitting there just right, and I said, that dog is pregnant. And pregnant to the point of, yeah, she's really big, which means either there's a lot of puppies in there or she's due very soon. 2 weeks after she came into our house, on a stormy night, of course, she gave birth to 7 puppies between midnight and 3 a.m. Unfortunately, in the South, they don't quite understand that most states have free spay and neuter programs, and so they don't necessarily spay or neuter their dog. And then when the dog shows up pregnant, it's, oh, I don't want you anymore. Or, oh, okay, I'll let you nurse the puppies for 2 to 3 weeks, and then I'm dumping them off at animal control. Dogs get pregnant very easily, and they generally don't have 1 or 2 in a litter. They have 7 in a litter, especially if they're a 50, 60-pound dog. So when you think about that, every dog that has a litter, if there's 7 to 17 dogs in a litter, that immediately sends out a huge number of dogs that there just aren't takers for at this time.
There comes a point where, you have to say, I'm sorry, we can't take any more. But it depends on your basic philosophy. Are you going to have, and there are so many animals, wonderful animals, that are euthanized every year just because there's no space. There's no place. It's overpopulation, and there's, no way to get the animal to a family that will take it. So I think that as a shelter, we made a decision early on that ours would be a no-kill shelter, and that we were not going to be taking in animals that were perfectly healthy, wonderful animals and then euthanize them. So there does come to be a point where you say, we have X number of spaces that we can take care of animals and give them good care and good support until they become adopted.
Until, as a nation, we don't euthanize 3 to 4 million animals, adoptable animals a year, then there really is no need to have unnecessary breeding.
You are talking about dirty cages, wire floors, rusty. You're talking about food that is contaminated, water filled with algae sometimes, dogs that are emaciated. It's a horrible, horrible existence for man's best friend.
They're usually extremely filthy. The dogs are in tiny, tiny cages, a lot of times too small for the size dog that is there. Puppy mills don't think about the fact that they've bred a dog 3 or 4 or 5 heat cycles in a row and that the dog is being deplenished of the nutrients it needs to survive, let alone pass on to the puppies that they're breeding. You could walk into a puppy mill and look in a cage and you'll see a mother nursing a litter of puppies and feces everywhere.
When you do make the decision to purchase a dog in a pet store, what you're doing is supplying the puppy mill industry. You are condemning that puppy's mother and father breeding in a puppy mill to those horrible conditions for their entire lives.
We have a lot of animals that come into the shelter with a variety of medical issues. We had a dog that was hit by a car a couple of months ago, had a broken leg. We have animals that are ill for a variety of reasons. Here at Tails, we do everything that we really medically can, sometimes within the parameters of the donor dollars that we receive, but we really go through give every animal extraordinary medical chances.
We've rescued 95 Siberian Huskies since the start of Ravens Husky Haven and Rescue. We're looking forward to the 100th. We intake roughly about 40 or so, every year. Our first year there was a lot more, obviously, because we were filling spaces and everything like that. But it's been really exciting.
Wow, this dog was not sleeping. Thank you.
Crusher was a pit bull rescue that our family had. We rescued him when he was about 3.5, 4 years old, and he came from Washington, the state. He was actually he had a microchip in him, so we found out all of his information that was with him was from this microchip, and he actually was a championship show dog. What had happened with his situation was the owner had a trainer for the dog, and he pretty much stole the dog from the owner and tried to make him a bait dog, so for dog fighting. And what they did was they ground down his teeth and they ripped out one of his canines because they didn't want him to be able to defend himself against their dogs. And in reality, he ended up killing their dogs. They found that there was really nothing that they could do with him, and they kicked him out of the moving car. He had a bunch of scrapes and bruises and cuts from where he got pushed out of the car, so his elbows were all messed up and his knees were messed up. Crusher never barked. We heard him bark a year and a half after we had him for the first time. But when he first met my mom, he ran right up to her, started wagging his tail, jumped on her. The rescuer was like, you should take him home and see if you like him. And my mom was like, no, like I can't. We don't want a pit bull. So my mother left, and the dog started barking at her from inside the house. And the rescuer called her up and was like, you need to come back here and pick up this dog. It's going crazy. I haven't heard it bark, and it is just barking up a storm right now for you. So my mom took Crusher home, and he never left.
When I saw Louie there, I knew that someone would want this dog, because for as sad as he looked, he was friendly and perked up the minute there was attention. So I knew he was an adoptable dog.
Jen is a colleague of ours, and we were aware that she had been fostering animals via Facebook, and we learned about our dog Louie when on Facebook we saw the faces of the latest group of dogs she brought back, and my wife fell in love with him on Facebook even before we met him. He was still getting over the heartworm medication and the tapeworm, both of which are pretty serious medications. So he was still somewhat fragile, and we had to keep him quiet and not play too vigorously with him for a month or so, just to make sure he was really back up on his feet. But he's well, as you can see, he's so mellow anyway. Even now in full health, he mostly just kind of hangs around and goes for walks. So we just had to keep him a little quieter than usual. He loves our son loves him. Quite often after we put our son to bed, then I will take Louie out for the last walk in the evening, and then we'll get ready for bed. Louie will quite often go upstairs and go in his room and just look on top of his bed to make sure his boy is okay, and then he'll turn in for the night. Yeah, it was like he was meant to be there.
For every dog you foster, you actually save 2's lives, because the dog that comes into your house in foster makes room at an animal control somewhere else for another dog or puppy to come into. Just know that there are people out there looking to adopt dogs and may not know that organizations have fosters. And you know, some people think that you have to go to a pet store to buy a dog. That's the only way to get them. There are organizations that do foster and adopt dogs.
I would say that this facility has changed me because it has really opened me up to all of the different backgrounds and different types of huskies that come through these doors. You know, especially coming from a professional training background, this facility has really just opened me to, you know, a completely diverse set of rehab and of like just really bringing these dogs back to life. Because that's the point, you know what I mean? That's the point of this rescue, is to see them in their new homes and to see how happy they are and to see the difference, you know, and it's so exciting when you can see them in person and just see the changes. It's awesome.
It's hard to be stressed out here. I have a big job, but it's hard to sometimes be stressed out here. You just come and you go walk a dog or play with a cat. And so how has it changed me? I love to go to work every day. You know, not a lot of people get to say that. So I'd say that's the main thing. I just love to go to work every single day.